Hello and welcome. I'm Regina, your host and mindset coach. This is the Moms Who Achieve podcast, where we discuss motherhood, mindset, money, and everything in between to equip first-generation change makers with the tools they need to create the lives they want and deserve by managing their minds and taking massive action. I am super ecstatic that you're here, and I'm hopeful that with an open mind, you'll leave with exactly what you came for. Let's go. Hey y'all, how is your day going? I hope it's been amazing. I hope that you're really enjoying the weather, especially if you're in Indy. I've loved it. We've spent so much time outside. I use this app called 1,000 Hours Outside. Or let me see what it says. 1,000 Hours. And it keeps track of our hours that we're outside. Last year, we made it to, I think, a little over 700 hours. That was my first year using it. And really my first year being intentional about being in nature, being in the sun, being out in the early morning and grounding and all of that. And it has definitely done wonders for my mental health. I'm a person that a few years ago, like you would have never caught me outside that often because I didn't do heat. I was deathly afraid of spiders, and I allowed those thoughts to really just create this atmosphere where I didn't spend much time outside. I started camping last year as well, and it's just like everything else. You just get kind of used to it. Now, I still don't mess with spiders, period, right? But they can be in my area and I not freak out. They can kind of be on the tent. I can see them and not run the other way. So I am making strides. And I'm grateful because honestly, I love to be in nature, and it's just like the fears that I had around spiders and whatever and all the bugs and all that kept me from doing that. So I'm really grateful that I decided last year to take the leap. I actually, there was a celebration that I took my younger children to, and they had these little animals and stuff. They were so cute. And then one of them was a tarantula. It was so ugly. Ugh. Oh my gosh. I'm just getting thinking of it. But my 5-year-old, I think she was 5, maybe 4, had, I think she actually dared me to let him put it on my head. And I was like, okay, no. So he ended up packing up, and I'm like, dang, I should have did it. And lo and behold, he walked past me. He hadn't left yet. And I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing something to help me just move through a little fear I have around spiders. Would you mind putting that tarantula on my head? Just let me experience that. And he said, yeah, sure, let's go. And y'all, to be very honest with you, I'm not sure what it did for me because I've yet to even watch the video back. I'm too afraid to even watch the video, but I did it. And maybe me sharing this with y'all, I'll go ahead and share that video. I didn't even post it online as some promo or something. So I'll do that. But anyways, doing that and just repeating to myself, okay, you're 1,000 times bigger than this, and all the different things. This is not even what this episode's about. I'm not even sure why I'm talking about this. I had no plans of it. Maybe one of you guys need to hear. Maybe y'all need to hear. Get out in nature. Get over your fears, because it does wonders for your mental health. And even throughout the winter, we still tried to spend as much time as possible outside. So back to my whole point was that this 1,000 Hours Outside is an amazing app to help you keep track, and it kind of makes it fun, gives you a goal. So this year we have a goal of 850 hours. And let me see, so far, we have reached 238 hours. We just came back from our first camping trip of the season. We had to cut it short so we didn't spend as much time as I thought we did, because it was going to be raining bad the next day and all of our friends were leaving. So anyways, I'm going to be camping. If you're in Indianapolis, or even in surrounding areas, a friend and I have started black camping for this area, and we'll be doing it. We're trying to do it every last weekend of the month. So our first one is June 30th. There is still room if you want to come. And actually, you know what? Next week I think I'm going to do a podcast about the benefits of camping. I'll just go ahead and throw that out there since we're getting closer to that trip. And I know many of my black friends are camping outside, but y'all and black people don't camp, all these things, these nuances that are not really true. There are thousands upon thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of black people who actually camp on the regular basis. There are Facebook groups about it. And yeah, with why I wanted to do it. So when we think about creating our life on purpose and we think about how we're currently living, when I started doing that thought work, I realized that a lot of what I believed and a lot of what I did on a regular basis was really because of my experience or what I was told or what I've seen. And so when I started to become intentional about, well, how would I live if I created the life I wanted, if it wasn't tainted by what I saw or what I thought was possible? And one of those was, I want a garden. I would like to grow my own foods, at least some of them. And I would like to be outside. I would like to be able to explore what it's like to actually sleep outside at night. Now, when I first started thinking of this, of course, I had all kinds of reservations. I'm not a camping person. I'm not an outside person. I don't do outside at night. I prefer my bed. Like, all of these thoughts came up. And again, doing my own self-coaching and being coached myself, I am realizing that every thought I have is just a story, and that's true for you as well. And it doesn't mean that it's not true. It just means it's a story that you abide by, which means also that you can change it anytime you want. And I think that's the most powerful thing that I've learned, maybe at least in my top 5, because oftentimes we go through and we have these thoughts in our minds and we believe it to be true. Like, it's fact. Like, these thoughts just swim around and they've been around forever, probably as long as we can remember. And that's our truth. But actually, it's not. It's just a story that we have decided to believe in. And so when it comes to camping and being outside and doing things, I had the story that I'm not an outside person. I don't do bugs. I don't do cold air. I don't, all these things that at one point in time, they were 1000% true for me, which did what? It made sure that I wasn't outside very often. So you may see me at a pool for a hot second. You may have seen me at a barbecue, something like that, but you would have never seen me hiking. You would have never seen me camping. You have never seen me do anything that didn't have a sole purpose of getting there. So I went to the park because I wanted my kids to play, or there was a barbecue for a family reunion, or we had a pool day. But when I started to think intentionally, like, how would I want my life to be if I created it myself? One of the things that came up was, what if I could be outside often? What if my fears around spiders and my fears around being outside and all these thoughts, or, that's not a Black person thing. Like, what if I didn't believe in those? What if I created something else? And so that was one of the first things I would say that I changed for myself, was that I enjoy being in nature. I enjoy being outside, gardening, growing my own food, camping. Those are all beliefs that I decided on purpose were going to be mine. And maybe you want to hold on to the fact that you're not an outside person. Like, inject any thought that you would like to try on yourself in this equation. I was not an outside person. I wanted to be. So I decided to create new thoughts and belief systems for myself. So all that to say, that is where me starting to get more outside, and this started really last year. I mean, don't get me wrong. We go to parks over the years. We're always going to parks and doing things like that. But to be intentionally in nature, it's different for me than being at a park or, some space that was created for us to go play and kind of share space. Like, being in the woods with nothing but the ground is very different than going to a park with some seats. And so last year, I began to think differently, and we spent more time outside. We started to do some yoga, and we would be outside doing it. I started to think of, instead of us being at our table eating lunch or breakfast or dinner, what if we were outside? Like, let's try this out. So it started very small, and it really was no big intention for me to become this really just outdoorsy person, but I just wanted to explore more, and I wanted to be comfortable with being outside more. So we started that, and we did yoga outside. We ate meals outside. We sat outside for no good reason. And I really tried to be outside in the morning and when it was chilly, and all of that just clears my mind. And the more I go deeper into my spiritual practice, the more I truly believe that God is everything and all around us, and the beauty in nature, in my personal opinion, it just didn't create itself. So it's just, I guess it gives me that energetic just feeling that I'm as close to God as possible. And I wanted that for my children. My older two, of course, because I raised them when they were young, I didn't have this thought process. They were definitely not on board, and they definitely was like, what the fuck has gotten into her? So last year they agreed to go to one camping trip, and We went, I think we did a total of 3. I think I may have did a total of 3, maybe 4 last year. And one, so let's talk about, now remember y'all, I didn't even prepare for this. So hopefully I'll cover all the bases. There's so much that I can talk about in regards to just camping along and what I've learned. But I'll talk about the experience with my older kids. I know when I talk to people, they're like, my teens, this and that. It is a culture shock. Like when your kids have never gone camping and you take them at, 12 and 16, 12 and 15, or 11, to say you're getting ready to spend a weekend outside, like that's pretty big, right? But they were gracious. I don't think, my 13-year-old now, she spent the entire, we've only done 2 nights. I'll say that she spent the entire trip with me once. And then the oldest one, he had some things to do. So he has done a night, I believe. Neither one of them were fans. I would say were, because I think their minds are kind of changing a little bit, but hey, I met them halfway. Like I explained why I wanted to do it, why this was really important to me, some benefits I believe we can get out of it, and ask them to do me this favor, right? It wasn't like, we're going camping, you're going, let's do it. Like I tried my best to just make it make sense for them. And for the most part, they were okay with it. I'm not going to say they were like, oh my God, yes, let's go, I'm so excited. Like, no. It's funny because, my daughter went to 2 with me. So the first one she went to, we had the most horriblest experience because it poured down. I mean, when we got there, which we got there later in the day, we didn't know that you need to get there early because setting up camp takes a while. So we got there later in the day. It was pouring down. We had to keep all of our stuff in the car because it was just too rainy. Also the campsite we were at was nothing but mud, to be honest. So thankfully, a friend had a big gazebo. And I'm talking, y'all, like think of pouring down rain where like we're under this huge gazebo and there's just pools of water just hitting the ground. I don't think it could have rained any heavier. So that was ironic. And however, though, it was such an amazing experience. My daughter didn't like it because where we stayed, there was no Wi-Fi at all. Like, period. Phones did not work. We had to leave, we had to drive 20 minutes for my phone to work. I loved that. But funny story, like my husband, that was my first time going camping away from him. And he went on Messenger to find somebody look at my messages and find somebody that I went camping with to be like, hey, I just need to know that she make it, because we had no connection. I was completely overwhelmed because I wasn't prepared. I had never had this experience, and I had 2 little ones plus the teen trying to set up. Everybody's hungry. I didn't know that a fire takes forever to cook. Just total disaster. But, looking back, it was really an amazing trip for a couple of reasons. And that was, I had a chance to connect with my daughter without electronics, my oldest daughter, and all of them, but especially the preteen, right? Without electronics for myself or her. We had to work together to make all this work. We had no idea what the hell we were doing. And my little ones there was older kids there too for my daughter. So that was good. My little ones, they're young, right? So they don't know any different. And they had a blast. I'm talking just me sitting under the canopy or the gazebo with friends and us talking, us cooking, and they just out in the rain. Mud everywhere. And it also taught me a lot about myself, about the controlling behaviors I can have, and about the things that can kind of irritate me. That's is that really a big deal, Regina? Try always in our minds, I can't go to sleep dirty. I can't, but you could take the full shower attire if you like, but I didn't. So try doing that, having those thoughts, and then going camping and mud's everywhere. And it's no matter how hard you try, you can't keep it out the tent. You can't keep the dirt out the tent, and just trying to not go crazy. And also I just had to let go. I had to let go and do the best I could. I didn't have some of the things I needed that I didn't know I would need until having to experience it, and things starts coming up in your mind about, next time I need that. So just really being in this very vulnerable space where you don't know what you're doing, you have no idea what's getting ready to happen, you are dirty, you feel and you just have to let go and rely on friends. Also, I would highly recommend that if you go with groups of people. That was the best part, being there with other moms, talking, having nowhere to be, having conversations, sharing food, spending quality time with each other, really just deep connection, and our kids doing the same thing. And all the moms there are all the moms, right? So like if my kid needs something, somebody's helping, just like that communal village experience. I had never experienced anything like that before. And so even though I would say it rained the entire time, it was crazy from beginning to end, what I got out of that was exactly what I needed to hook me. And my children loved it, the younger two especially. The oldest one, I think she said she was okay. It just didn't have Wi-Fi and she wasn't expecting that, so she wasn't able to use her phone. But even with that, like, she may not be remember, but I saw her interacting with other kids, other teens that she probably would not have had her phone worked, right? Because, you know, they're in their phones. They're kind of like, I don't know if I should talk to you. And, you know, that little weird space they're in when they first meet. But like they were playing games and they were helping with the younger ones. And it was just really cool. And funny story from that first trip. We were surrounded by, I think it's the first one, but at any rate, whether it's the first one or another one with Cameron last year, we were somewhere where the raccoons were horrible, y'all. Like they started coming out at daylight for your food. It was crazy. And it's our first experience, remember, first summer. And we're at around the fire pit, and we look up it's like they were like getting ready to pounce. Like they were, just think of these freaking raccoons, these tiny human looking things, like just walking very slowly, trying to like snatch your shit. It was so crazy. And they didn't care. They were used to people. So you had to like scare them off. I mean, I'm sitting in the chair around the fire, and this raccoon's like a foot and a half away from me, like getting ready to snatch my food. Like it just was waiting on me not to pay attention. It was actually pretty funny to think of it. And like we'd be under the shelter. That was good. This place had a shelter, thank God. We were under that, eating and sharing space, and oh my gosh, there they go. Someone left their chips out. Someone left something out at their tent. They snatched it and ran off. Like I remember one of the raccoons took my daughter's sippy cup. They thought it was food. And I had to go in the woods and try to find the sippy cup because, lesson learned, that was the only one I brought. So really funny story. And like that night, it started getting darker, and Cameron, my daughter, she just like, she couldn't even sit still. She was like looking around because it started getting dark, but you could still see like the silhouette of them still coming out. And so it was really like funny looking back, but imagine it pitch black. Our first time camping. We've never gotten ready for bed, done anything in the dark, right? Because we're in the house, and me realizing, oh shit, I need to put all this food in the car. I need to put my trash in the car, because they were like, don't leave your trash out. These raccoons are crazy, whatever. So it's dark. Cameron's holding the flashlight. The flashlight doesn't light up the whole area, only where you are. So your mind starts to race, and you're thinking there's 30 raccoons around you just ready to jump. And so I'm trying to rush stuff in the car. We got a 1 and 3, 4-year-old. I'm sleepy. It was just nuts, y'all. And like me trying to help them wash their feet in this bucket and get them into the tent before these raccoons just like take over our entire bodies. And me and Cameron just were dying laughing, like, because she was so scared. I just could not hold it in. It was so funny. And since I was laughing so hard, I couldn't move fast enough. And I was just like, oh my God. And then once we finally got done with everything, we're in the tent. I got everything in the car. They're rummaging around. Like I saw them kind of push against our tent. Now, I'm just thinking about this. This is probably you being like, if you've never gone camping, you're probably like, now, like, fuck that, I'm not going. But listen, y'all, that was just one experience. I've been camping several times since then, and I guess that place is just horrible. So I will tell you what it's called. I can't remember. I don't want to say the wrong thing. If you're interested, just let me know. I'll let you know. I can't remember which one it was, but funny thing, we woke up the next morning, went out. All of the trash that our friend Sierra had tied up at the top of the shelter, like these raccoons climbed up and got into all of it, took all the trash, all the food out of it they could. It was just crazy. And also, people feed them. Like even our second day there, we're looking, and all the kids. Now, mind you, it's probably like 10 plus kids. And when you have that many kids, in case you have smaller kids, it makes it so easy. They watch them. Like everybody watched them. If something's wrong with my 1-year-old, someone came and told me. Like it helped me so much. Like you had kids of all age ranges, and the older ones automatically just take care of the little one. It was just amazing to watch, and it was a definite community that I loved the most. And they were like feeding these raccoons, and it's like, oh, okay, that's why they keep coming out. Like, stop. So that was funny. I was gonna say something else about that trip. I don't know. It'll come back. But basically, that was our first experience. And they were like, if you can make it through this one, you can make it through any. It's usually not this bad. And I think the worst part about that trip was it was really, really hot and there was no water around. Like we didn't have a river, a lake close by. They did have somewhere driving distance, like within the park, because a lot of times at these campsites, they're huge. So you have to like drive to places that are further away. And the kids loved that. We were able to sightsee, get in water, have a good time. And it's super laid back. So I really enjoyed it. Even with all of the craziness that happened, I said, yes, this is for me. So we went once or twice more, and we really enjoyed it and just got better and better, and you get better at things. Your tent, you know what you need. And what I love about group camping is that if you don't have something, somebody else does, always. If you forgot something for your meal, somebody else has it. Everybody just kind of shares and gets together. And there's always like, at least the several times I've gone, like a communal fire pit, right? Where like everyone just goes and sits around. We do s'mores, like the kids hang out. So yeah, we just came back yesterday from our first one for this season, and it was equally amazing. I got a new I got a new tent, which to me is the worst, right? Like, so if you want what's easy, like please get you an instant tent so that it can just pop up and be done with it. I have trouble every time. And I now have an instant tent for all of us when all 6 of us go. But I decided since it was just me and the 2 little ones and their cousin, my nephew, I would get a smaller one, which was not an instant tent and it was a headache. But thankfully, again, community. My friend took the kids to one of the parks and I was able to get an hour and a half of just setting up and getting myself together. So what did I want to say about camping and why? I've lost my thoughts about that. I wanted to, I guess, address some of the questions that may come up. And so one was like, even if you're not an outside person, you can change that thought if you'd like to, if that's something that you want to do. For me, camping allows me to connect with nature, be outside. It's beautiful to be out there. Even if you have a certain tent that you can see the sky and just waking up to that and be in that space, getting away from home. Oftentimes when you're camping, it's hard work. You're busy, so you're disconnected from electronics typically. So that's always good. And just really creating relationships and bonds. And more importantly for me, allowing my children to do that. So we were just camping, and I think if I had to guess, it was at least like, probably 12, 15 kids at least. And there was more that was supposed to come, but they got sick. So a couple of families weren't able to make it. But the park that we were at, which was Sycamore Springs, it is by far my favorite. If you have smaller children, really any age, because they have a basketball court as well. They have trails to ride your bikes. They have shelters. They have 21 playgrounds. And where we stay, there's a river behind us. Like literally you can just kind of look over your tent and it's right there. So it was amazing. In preparation, if I have sold you on camping, then in preparation, you can go on Pinterest. You can email me. I've changed my email. I've not updated everything, but the best email for me now is info@reginasloancoaching.com. You can email me and I'll send you the list that I've created every time I've gone. I've added things to it to make it super simple for you of all the things. And remember that when you go, you'll see there's things that you don't need that others do, and vice versa. For me, I like to bring, for example, a portable, like, what would you call it? A portable eye, like how you cook at home. And it's very simple. It's small, so it compacts. But, oftentimes if I want to make some tea or boil some hot water for cleaning or some quick breakfast because everyone's hungry while the fire's getting going, I can do that real quick. We had that happen. Like we did a community dinner pitch in, and I was doing chicken and peppers and onions, and it was kind of still like very cold, very frozen, or a little frozen, and like it would have took an hour plus probably on the fire, and I had that, so it got done like all the way through, very tasty, in like 30 minutes or less. So it definitely is something that I always take. And so every time I go, I add things to it that I could benefit from. So I can send that to you. I would also say, like, definitely get an instant tent if you don't care to, some people really like the idea of having to learn how to put a tent together. And it's not hard once you do it a couple of times, but it is easier to have an instant pop up. So I would suggest, if it's not something you are interested in learning how to do, go ahead and invest the extra money. If you don't know, if you buy from Costco, like, you can always take it back if something's wrong with it. So that's where I purchased ours. I would say, definitely come with an open mind. I would almost always camp with people. I'm not sure if I would like to go camping with my kids by myself. Even if my husband went, I'm not sure. I think the bigger thing for me is the community, is my kids being able to play with other kids. So I guess it boils down to like, what are you interested in and what are your goals for going? Some people maybe prefer to be alone, but I like to do the group camping. And again, we are going June 30th. If you're interested, I think it's Clifty Falls, but I'm not 100% sure. And for me personally, I'm not driving any more than 2-ish hours to camp. Any longer than that, I'm not trying to pack up all that, drive there and sleep outside. Like, I'm going to be flying somewhere, or if I'm driving, it's going to be me going to an Airbnb where I can sleep comfortable and not be outside. So think of those things. There's all kinds of different kind of meals you can look up online on what things to prepare. And if you're going with a group, no worries. Do not even stress about it. They, and hopefully you'll be going with me, will help you 100%. And did I mention, I guess I'll say the benefits here. And if anything else comes up, I'll end with that. The benefit for me is, like I said, being outside for me is the closest physical ability that I have to God for me. That's my experience. Also, being outside and camping, just by default, it disconnects me from the world, from work, from electronics. Like, I spend a lot of time on my laptop with my clients and everything else that I'm doing. And so it kind of felt weird. Like, I don't have this, and then also by the end of the night, kids are usually wore out and I have time to myself if I want to. So I was able to do some training stuff that night and just kind of relax. And if you're in a place where it allows for Wi-Fi, and so that's a benefit, disconnection from the internet and from, all the tech and all that stuff. It's really good for me. Community. Like, I know the women that we went with, but to spend time and share space and take care of each other's kids and cook together and talk together and be in the water together. And, one person, like my friend who took the kids up to the Playhouse Village for me, when she was taking her kids, she just took mine, and I was able to set up in peace and have a moment to myself, and then if I'm going down to the river and I'm taking the kids, or we just kind of bounce back and forth, like that village, experience that I'm sure it used to be like. I love that. I think also it's a very inexpensive way to get away. Like, if you have a lot of children or if you're tight on money, camping is very inexpensive. I think we were supposed to stay 2 nights. I think we ended up staying 1 because it was supposed to rain really bad. But for that entire stay, like, I've never paid basically more than $40-something for the 2 or 3 nights that I've done. And so it's very inexpensive. I mean, yeah, you have to bring all the things or whatever, but like, to be able to be in the river and see different places, and kids are really easy to please, and go to all the things that Sycamore Springs has, for that amount of money, can't be beat. They also give like free wood there. So, you could just look up the different sites and see what benefits they have there. If you have small children, I would definitely so far recommend Sycamore Springs in our area 100%. I haven't seen or come across something better for their age. And the amenities that are right there in walking distance. Like, my 2-year-old and 5-year-old, like, they're riding their bike up and down this big old gravel street. It's like really fun, and everybody's watching out for everybody's kids. It's just really good. Goes back to the community for me, and watching the kids. I think that's my most favorite thing to watch, is my children being in nature, sometimes doing nothing, just laying there playing with their toys or in the water. My daughter, my 5-year-old, she actually got up close and personal and touched a dragonfly. They see snakes. They see all different kinds of things that you don't see at home, and everything just is kind of slowed down, right? Like, us moms and dads, we're making sure meals are prepared and all that, and we're like really busy. And that's one thing actually that I thought about, was that while we were packing up, I had a hunch to like tell my kids to help me, especially my nephew who's older, and I decided not to. And I realized that I am like creating their childhood memories, and not that they can't help and there isn't responsibility in that, because they did help at some points, but not to overcrowd them with the responsibilities that I'm taking on to create this space for them. And so it was really just cool. A friend of mine we left kind of late. And so we were only two there packing up, and it was almost dark, but we were just like packing up our stuff, taking our time, doing our thing. And you could just hear the kids at the baseball field just having such a good time. I mean, for like 2 to 3 hours. Like, I think that's how long it took us to really pack up all of our stuff and kind of end the night. And it's worth it. It's definitely worth it to me for my children to play with kids of all different ages and stages and backgrounds and experiences. And we kind of just let them do them themselves. Like, I really try not to be a helicopter parent. I really try to like let them figure it out. And you'll be surprised that when we put the power into children's hands and let them figure it out, they do. Not that things don't happen. Is that a word? Not that things don't happen. And there's a time and space for us as adults to jump in and help navigate the conversation. But it's just really cool to watch. I'll give you one example. My daughter, my 5-year-old, we were in the river and they were throwing rocks, and not at each other, but just like, it's a huge body of water, and they were just throwing them down. She had her goggles on, and I had been telling her, like, you can't really see in the goggles, and those aren't really for the lake because it's really dirty, and you probably don't want to just have your face under that and, whatever. You just kind of want to play in it, and explain this to her, but she was adamant to wear them. Well, they kind of had a tint to them. And so I think that's what her issue was, and maybe just not paying attention. But she threw a rock and it hit her friend dead in the face and right in the forehead, cut her pretty deep. And in that moment, that was her first time really hurting somebody like that. And she started freaking out. I mean, she went nuts, screaming, crying. She ran up on top of the rocks, just felt really awful. And her friend was really bleeding bad. So I had to help her friend and get her out the water just in case, she had a concussion. I'm not sure what was happening. So of course I had to deal with her first. And I'm asking my 5-year-old, like, hey, come with me. She's okay. Let's figure this out. You didn't do anything wrong. It's okay. It was an accident. And she just freaked out. So I just had to help her friend, got her up, and my 5-year-old just ran to the tent. She ran to our tent. She's like, I'm never getting in the water again. I'm never, she was just freaked out that she had hurt her, ran in the tent, took off all her swim stuff, put on her clothes, and just stayed in there crying for a couple of minutes. And I, helped her friends and, bandaged her up and all that. And within that time, she had came out, and this goes to show, that's a whole other topic about us making children apologize because it's the proper thing to do, and not really helping them to see the deeper meaning of what an apology is, and how we all really are self-starters in our own feelings and what we experience and how we feel. She came out on her own, and she immediately walked up to her and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And they had a conversation. They were young adults, right? And it wasn't anything extravagant. It was just she knew she had wronged her and it was an accident, and she felt horrible about it, and she apologized. And then we talked about it, and she's like, I'm never getting in the water again. She just felt horrible about it. But we talked, and I said, accidents happen, and we know, and she knows, everybody knows that you didn't mean to hit her. Once she was calmed down, right? I'm not doing this in the middle of her having this emotional outburst. I was like, what if this happens again, the next time you guys are in water, what do you think you could do? What do you think could be different to prevent that from happening? Immediately, she's like, I should not wear goggles in the lake. They're for the pool. And I would have been able to see because I didn't see her, and she's having this whole conversation, and I need to make sure before I throw a rock that nobody's in front of me, and all these things that I could have told her in that moment. I could have gotten on her, Ryan, what did you do? I told you not to throw those rocks. I told you not to throw it when someone's around. I told you to make sure no one's in front of you. All of that would have made her feel even more awful. She already innately felt bad. She was innately guilty because we don't have to be taught to do that, to feel that way. It's just a natural experience that we have when we do feel bad. This has turned into a whole conscious parenting tip, I guess. But anyways, I'll end this by saying, to adding on, that there's the benefit of camping, the costs, the community with us parents, the community with the children with children, and also us with other kids. There were several times where I was on a hammock and hanging with someone else's, my friends' kids, or they would come up to me and say, hey, can you help me with this? One of the older kids wanted my knife to help himself make this, really sharp stick to go fishing in the water. And I was able to help him with that, and give him what he needed and make sure he was safe with it. So it's not only interaction with me and the adults, but me and the other kids, and my kids with other kids, and my kids with other adults, and learning. One thing that my 5-year-old had to learn several times was, you have to wait until someone's done speaking, because she'll, hey, while someone's talking. And so everyone's like, hold on a second, I'm talking. So there's just the experience of just learning how other adults are, how other kids are, how we all are together, and how we navigate. There's so much to be said about that. I can really talk about that kind of thing forever. But that, the expense, the grounding work you can do, being outside, disconnection, and just being in a different space and trying something new, and also like somewhat survival skills. Like, I'm not out in the woods with nothing. I've got stuff that I can use and need, but when you run out of something, or when you don't have it, or when you need something, you kind of have to make it work. So definitely some really good skills to have there. I think those are the major ones for me. And listen, y'all, Black people do camp. There are thousands of people. There's groups, there's huge groups that they've kind of come together and created an organization where you can like pay them to go camping with them as a group, and all kinds of stuff. I'll definitely post those links in the show notes. There's a couple of Facebook groups that I'm in. But regardless, like, I don't only camp with Black folks. I think that that's a beautiful space to be had for a lot of different reasons. But I've camped with mostly white people, and it's been great. Like, because when you're out there and you're connecting and you're the same, heart-minded thoughts and just wanting to connect, and your kids have a good time and you have a good time, it really doesn't really matter what color you are. But I do think it's really important for us to have the experience amongst ourselves, especially to kind of help kill this thought that Black people don't camp, because it's not the case. So if you want to camp, when I go camping, it's always with kids. I am not a fan. I don't think I ever would camp just by myself or with my husband. I am doing something in August, camping with some other women, but that's going to be in a cabin actually. But usually they do camp together, and I'll post them as well. There are so many experiences basically for us to get outside and experience things and experience other people and get the benefits. And I really suggest that you try it once. And if you're kind of like, I'm not sure, maybe find someone who is camping and go out for the day. I've offered that to my family, like, just come out for the day and see what it's like and leave when it gets dark. Just kind of experience it. But I think that we could all benefit from getting outside and sleeping overnight and being away from home outside with other people for sure. For us, for our kids, for the community. And yeah, that's all I have to say. I hope that I covered everything since I really wasn't prepared, but camping is the shit. I am a camper now. I will go camping every season, every summer. Listen, I don't winter camp. That's one thing I'm not doing. I'm not going to be, my seasons for camping are June to September. October maybe, but I probably wouldn't schedule it. It would have just had to be on a PRN basis, because if it's cold, I'm not doing it. I think that's it. If you have any questions, definitely email me, hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, Moms Who Achieve, or Regina Sloan. Email at info@reginasloancoaching.com. I am well aware that this intro and outro may be a little outdated, y'all, but listen, I'll get to it when I can. You know how to reach me. I hope this was great for you. Please share with somebody who has expressed interest in camping and just wants to know, some insight on the experience. And if you got questions, let me know. Be blessed. That wraps up this week. I hope you found value. Please share with a mom friend, subscribe, and leave a review. This helps this podcast to get into the minds of those who need it most. I would love to hear what you think about the episode. Find me on Instagram and Facebook at Moms Who Achieve. Looking forward to chatting with you next week. Take care.